All right, guys.
Welcome to the Deer Shop Podcast, presented by Siman Brothers Outdoors and the Leaky John Boat Company.
He went and watched a movie that has a $200 million production budget, and then the next thing he watched was our video on YouTube that has a $0 production budget.
This is the first buck I've shot in over 10 years.
Your track job was the first fun track job. That kind of like, I think part of my life was influenced by that night.
Then you miss him 3 times with a rifle at 70 yards on video for the whole world to see.
That's what Caleb did. 5 years ago, we couldn't shoot a deer at 100 yards with a slug gun. Now you're shooting turkeys at 100 yards with a shotgun.
Joey takes
The shop is closing up.
Make sure he takes all his right antlers. You can't leave anything.
All right, guys. Deer Shop Podcast, episode 134. We are back in the shop again. Myself, Ethan, and Al Tomechko. I hope I said that right.
Nailed it.
Al, how's it going?
Good, buddy. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. I know we've been messaging back and forth a lot, probably for the last year or so, about trying to get on, and with everything we've had going, you know, it's been busy, but it was a perfect time to sneak you in here and talk about some stuff today. We're going to talk about some drone surveys. We're going to talk about some habitat stuff today. We're going to get to that here in just a bit. I'm going to cover some business real quick. As quick as I can, I'm going to try and cover some of this business. For one, don't ever move. I know the audience is sick of us saying it because it's been what we've talked about the last 3 weeks, but man, this whole moving process just sucks.
Sounds awful. I've moved from different countries before.
But you had like
easy, yeah.
You had like your military, like, what do they call that? Your gear locker, your one suitcase.
People came and packed my stuff up and put a tag on it. I never saw it again until I got back home.
I'm probably at 20 plus pickup truck loads of stuff, and I've probably only got about half of my stuff moved out of my house. With
Sounds
20 plus.
Awful.
You know, I looked into those pods, I looked into U-Hauls, I looked into some of that stuff, and I don't think you really gain that much space for the money you're spending. As I don't know, if you were moving a far distance, you would have to.
Yeah.
But
moving not so far.
For what I'm doing it the hillbilly way. The gobblers are back in town. Our trail cameras have been blowing up on all of our farms. The spring weather got here, and it's been real nice. It's been wet and rainy, but we've had a lot of cool, crisp mornings and warm afternoons. And, man, the birds have been out. They've been gobbling. I love turkey. Al, are you much of a turkey hunter?
I'm not.
Not at all, huh?
I don't. I actually let one to two really good friends basically have the run of my place. And,
really?
It's been fun. I mean, I love seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
I love sharing all the trail camera pictures with them and stuff. And the one gentleman, he and his wife have killed 2 or 3 years in a row, both killed gobblers. So,
cool.
Nice.
Or I think 1 year they both killed, and then it's been like every other year on my place. And he's like, man, the habitat works kicking in because he's like, you got birds all over.
That's good.
You know, so it's been cool to see. I'm not against it. I just don't have the time right now. With Vitalize and 2 young kids, this like spring is like really crazy busy.
Yeah, I believe that. I've always had a soft spot for turkey hunting. We kind of started what we do with the outdoor, with the videos and all the stuff that we do together it started with turkey hunting before the deer hunting, and I've always just really loved it. I know I got a lot of friends that are like just like you. They could pass it, they could take it or leave it. Some of them actually hate it, but man, I love turkey hunting.
That's awesome.
I like turkey hunting as a group effort.
Yeah.
I like hunting with buddies versus myself.
I don't mind going by myself, but it is a good hunt that you can do, and camp that you can do, and trip that you can do with 2 or 3 guys, and it just makes it a lot of fun. We're hunting youth weekend. We're going to be filming youth weekend, and then we're going to West Virginia right after that for the West Virginia opener. And then we're going to Pennsylvania for the Pennsylvania opener, and we'll be hunting obviously here in Ohio over the next month. So at least 3 states. I don't know. Do you think we'll make it to Indiana or Kentucky?
Probably not. Dylan's going to Kentucky. I'm giving him access again.
Dylan was actually kind of kicked. So it's the same weekend that me and Chris are going to West Virginia. Mm-hmm. And he kind of was kicking the idea around of like, man, maybe I'll just go with you guys if Gore will let me to like West Virginia and film and spend the weekend down there instead of going to Kentucky by himself. I know his buddies might be down there.
Yeah, he has a group of buddies that goes in the same area, just not the same farms. Yeah. But I don't have enough time off during the season to go. So.
I took a big chunk of time off to work on this new house, and it just kind of perfectly correlates with being off for turkey hunting. And I'm going to close on the house, and 2 days later, I'm leaving for West Virginia for 3
Crazy.
days. But hey, once you're in the house and the dressers are full and the bed's made, I can spend the next 10 years rearranging my furniture. And
And you will.
Yeah. Right.
Especially with his wife. This is your 4th couch in the last 5 years?
Yeah, I'm buying 2 new couches, so it'll be couch 4 and couch 5 since you've been home that I bought. Anyone wants a couch, I might be selling some here soon. The podcast lately, so I know we've caught a lot of heat for not having podcasts every week like we did for the last couple of years. We're working on. I think I think from here on out we'll be able to get one weekly. Things are kind of slowing down a bit. March was just rough with the pancakes, and then moving, Isaac moving, me moving. It was a little bit too much to try and get one every week. But I know we keep getting some comments. There's some guys that have been leaving comments about that. Some guy named, I don't know how to say it. His podcast handle is HNEIMEIC. He comments every week we don't have one, like, damn, come on, man.
Hemnick?
Hemnomic?
I don't know how to say that.
Hemnomic. I know Uncle Jay always texts me too, like, is there a podcast this week? It's not showing up.
And then we always get our
Born
weekly
again. Yeah,
Snapchat.
Born Again Matt's, boo, you guys are scabs. You're not getting your podcast out, blah, blah, blah.
He doesn't produce videos either, so.
Yeah, he stopped producing videos, so suck it, Matt. Uncle Jay, we're wearing your hoodies. If you're watching the
matching.
YouTube version, we happen to match. It wasn't planned. Well, they're not the same. They're different.
They're close, yeah.
A little bit different. The Seasons Left merch line is going to be dropped soon. I don't know exactly when, but keep an eye on social. So follow Harvest Moon Outdoorsman and Seasons Left LTD on Instagram. Those are the 2 pages where Jay posts. And then obviously us at Siman Brothers Outdoors and the Leaky Jumbo Company, we will also be sharing his posts when they make it. But if you want one of these limited edition Seasons Left, so he's doing the way he's doing it. I guess I don't want to spoil too much, but
He was in here shooting a commercial.
yeah. So the way he's doing it is he's going to produce 50 hoodies every year or every season or every couple months based on what's in season or what's, what is big in the outdoors at that time. The first run this year, I think it's going to be turkeys and bear, I believe. But he's doing a run of 50 limited edition. I think it's 50. I don't know the number.
I don't know the number. I just know it's a finite number of stuff.
Whatever the number is, he's going to release that many hoodies. He's going to ship them himself. He will have them in at his house, or you can pick them up. And once each style is sold out, they're done forever, and he's never bringing them back. So he says. So if you want one of the Seasons Left hoodies, his big thing is, as you get older, you got less and less hunting seasons, and you know, like for example, his moose hunt that he went on last year, which you guys haven't seen yet, but you will. That's a once in a lifetime probably hunt. He's never going to do a solo Alaska 3-week moose hunt ever again. So that's part of the Seasons Left and having these experiences. So definitely check out his social media stuff. You'll be able to see more of it on his page. Anything you want to add to that, Ethan?
Nope. Just like I said, he was shooting a commercial here the other day and made fun of me for having Chipotle when I got home from the gym.
Yeah, you had you borrowed my truck the other day. I found a bunch of candy wrappers all shoved in the seat.
Yeah, that kid needs a snack.
Don't worry, I am also very fat. A couple comments, and then we will get into our guest. Lawrence's Manning. Gotta let them little bucks go so they turn into Boone and Crotchet. Boone and Crotchet. Crochet deer. Imagine that, guys. Any comment? That was a comment he left on our West Virginia deer camp video from this year.
Be okay.
Which both bucks we shot. I don't know if I have the jawbone from my West Virginia buck. I don't know if I got saved, but I would say both of them were at least 3 years old for in the hills there, and then I wouldn't say they're any older than 3, possibly 2.
Just got the bullet in the back of the head.
Well, no. So those are. I was talking to Mike who does these. He said almost every deer has that hole in the back of their head.
Wasn't this one injured though?
Yeah, but there wasn't any damage to his skull, but he had a wound outside on the back of his head. But regardless, I understand what you're saying because we all want to shoot big deer, Mr. Manning Jr. Lawrence, whatever your name is on there. But it's his screen name is kind of hard to. Lawrence's Manning Jr. Man Jr. This deer that lives in those West Virginia hills, even if I let him get 8 years old, is never going to be a Boone and Crockett buck. Now they do have some deer down there that probably they can, but your average run of the mill, acorn eating hill deer is not going to get that big. So 3-4 years old in West Virginia with a rifle during deer camp, just getting shot.
Yeah.
It is. Libs Wrecked Canada says
Funny name.
the sound of that little buck walking in the dry leaves in the opening scene is exactly why I love to hunt the bush rather than the open fields. So that's cool. Corey Roberts, love the movie choice Night Before the Hunt. I live in Escanaba and cracks me up how many deer camps still watch that. Great camp, guys. Wait for the deer season up here. Some guy named Next Step Outdoors commented, save some for the rest of us on the shed hunting video. I don't know if Aaron even found a shed this year.
Found some deadheads, I think.
Yeah.
Must have got bad eyesight.
All those ones that the Amish killed on public land that couldn't be found. Jace E., the part in the beginning where you guys were hiking to camp and breathing real hard. Yeah, I can relate to that.
Which one was that? Which video?
One of the West Virginia videos again. But yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. Reelin' Lips. Reelin' PS. Reelin' Nips. Where's the guy that doesn't talk? What kind of comment is it? Was on one.
Who was you referring to?
I don't know. It was on that's why I put that. That's why I put it in there. It was on a podcast of me, Isaac, and Jay, and he just commented, "Where's the guy that doesn't
Must
talk?"
be Isaac.
Well, I'm assuming Luke. So I'm assuming because Luke come on the podcast and say like 9 words, and then that's what he says.
That's funny.
All right, we're done with the business, Matt. I think it was right around 10 minutes, Matt. So you can't complain too much. All right, Tomechko. Welcome to your shop, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I know I have followed, well, at least Caleb since Ohio Sportsman's days.
The only deer I killed while I was on Ohio Sportsman is that one up there behind you. That's
How long ago was that?
Oh, man. 2014?
In a forum?
2014, I think I killed that buck. That was my only deer I've ever, that's the only buck I've ever killed over bait. That one right there. 2014. Yeah. Ohio Sportsman days.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the place to be. I mean, that was, I don't know when Facebook came out, but it was like probably before Facebook was at least popular from a hunting perspective.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I miss the forums. We talked about that a little bit pre-podcast. The forums were so much fun back then.
Yeah, I'm still on a couple that I really enjoy. The Ohio Outdoors.
Never remember that.
Is a good one. Jesse Roche. I don't know if you've ever seen him around.
I've seen I've seen him on Facebook, I believe.
Yeah, he's from Washington County.
Okay.
Really good guy. And he and another gentleman started that one about 10 years ago. I don't know. I've been on there since pretty much the beginning. And that one's really good. Okay. And then I'm on Habitat Talk, which was a spinoff when they shut down the QDMA forums.
Okay.
That one is...
I remember when they shut the QDMA forums down, people were panicking and downloading like all the PDFs of the threads on especially like some of the one of them, a lot of them were like the mixes and stuff and the food plot, like certain food plot blends that people were doing. I remember there was like big panic to download all the forums before they were
I think Skip
wiped.
Which I know you had him on. Like there was a gentleman who I'm really good friends with him, his son, but Paul Knox, which it was like LC Creek or something like that.
Yeah,
but he had a lot of food plot and then like switchgrass. Like he was doing switchgrass like 25 years ago.
Yep. That rings a bell. I remember
and
that.
And then he had I think on a different forum, maybe the Iowa forums, it was Doubletree was his name. So he
was Doubletree on, I'm pretty sure he was Doubletree on Archery Talk maybe as well.
Maybe.
And bowhunting.com.
So I don't know if it was just from the Iowa forums or because he ended up passing away. I think he had, I don't want to misspeak on Jesse's behalf because he's a great guy, but I think it was ALS or something.
Okay.
So he passed away. Jesse still lives in Iowa, I think on his dad's farm. And he's a really good dude, knows a ton about habitat. But I don't know if it was just the Iowa forums or they took all of those like before everything got totally shut down. And I think it's now on
like archived.
Iowa forums as like Paul's diary, whatever they call it, journal, and it's everything.
Cool. Yeah.
So I know that guy was really great about sharing information and stuff, and it was cool about forums because you ain't going back on Facebook.
No, and it's hard. Yeah, you can't. It's hard to navigate. It's all public. It's hard to. The way the linear threads work isn't very good on Facebook.
I think that it's gotten
compared
worse.
To a forum. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's gotten worse. Like you can't find stuff.
Because they put an emphasis on things that are getting reactions. So like if it doesn't get reactions, it gets buried and then just literally it'll just kind of like disappear unless you like turn on all comments and forums were the way to do it back in the day. And it'd be cool to bring them back, but it's tough. It's tough if like without the good mobile apps. I know there are some mobile apps that have the forums on, but it doesn't work the same as when you log in your computer and
Is there any big forum still left? Is Archery Talk technically a forum?
I think Archery Talk's still around. Bowhunting.com's still around. I go on it every once in a while. I just kind of like check in and make a post, and then
Reddit's technically like a forum stylish too.
It is, but Reddit, man, is
Reddit's my go-to for everything.
I use Reddit for my sports information and like some political stuff, which is kind of a drag. But the hunting on Reddit, it's not as good as for whatever reason. Like there are a lot of guys on there that are good, but there's more of I don't know. I just don't like the crowd of guys that are on the hunting forums that are on Reddit, if that makes any sense. It's not the same.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's one of the problems with Facebook is it's such a huge distribution of people that are commenting and
bots.
Oh yeah. And you have this whereas if you're on the Ohio Outdoors, everybody pretty much is from Ohio or they're hunting Ohio. So right there, you have a pretty big common denominator.
Bottles neck people down to more like-minded.
And same with Habitat Talk, you don't really have guys on there. I'm sure there is a little bit, but you don't have guys on there going well, I only hunt ravine funnels because I'm a mobile hunter. Everybody on there is Habitat Talk because they're interested in deer habitat. Yeah. So you really get a common denominator. And I think that's what always has been cool about forums. Whereas if you go on to a hunting thread on Facebook, it's you get 30 answers and none of them answer the guy's question because they're all just this guy's talking about shooting moose. And you're like, what? The guy's talking about what broadhead to use,
Right.
And for whitetail in New Jersey. It's just totally different. I think that's one of the problems. Yeah. That's why over the years, I'm sure you feel the same way as I've gotten older, I do a lot less engaging on any social media.
I find myself lurking more and more. I will poke the bear every once in a while, but there's a lot of times now. I'm telling you 75% of the time, I'll start to type out a response and I'm thinking,
who cares?
This benefits me none.
Yeah.
And you know what? I know who's watching this group, per se, and it's I'm just not gonna comment on that. But it was a little bit different in the forum days. It was more, I don't know, I liked it better.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I still am on a couple, because I do like the long form responses. And don't get me wrong, there's still people who can be jerks every once in a while, but most of the time people are on there and they're really interested in learning.
Because they need to create a login. They need to log into that website. They're going there for a reason. Yeah. It's not just I open up Facebook and someone posted an AI generated photo telling them, oh, fuck you. It's different.
For sure.
Forums.
For sure.
Were you an Archery Talk guy?
I think I had a login and for whatever reason, I just wasn't captivated by it.
Me neither. It was the place to be for bow stuff. And I know their classifieds were famous for buying bows, but I just never really dug into it too much. I did watch a podcast the other day though, about the OG buck. Do you remember all that drama about the buck, 2014-ish time frame in Ohio? Mm-hmm. It was on Archery Talk. There was a large thread about guys that were hunting on Archery Talk. It was world record size typical. That someone, I guess, ended up killing him, but no one really knew that until recently. And there was 5 or 6 sheds off this buck. But I watched a podcast. I only bring that up because I watched a podcast recently that referenced that. And it was one of those nostalgic brain things, oh, I remember when that was going around. But that was the only thread on Archery Talk that I ever watched because it was about a deer in Ohio,
Yeah. I'm also not I love to bow hunt, but I shoot a Matthews Helium that I bought after my first job out of college.
Yeah.
And I'm just not it just keeps killing deer.
My bow's 11 years old, man. You're speaking to the choir.
Yeah, so for me, I shoot it well.
Yep.
It's not the fastest bow in the world, but it blows through every deer buries in their offside shoulder, as long as, unless I mess up, it's doing what it's supposed to do. So, I just have not got into what was it 3-4 years ago with the heavy arrow. Everyone was I need to build. And then right before that, it was you need the lightest. I just found an arrow. It was spined correctly. Yeah. It flew, and I like big expandable broadheads. That's for me. I don't care if you shoot something else. But that
speaking of the choir in here, man,
I like this guy.
But that's worked for me. So I get very into details on stuff. I'm very nerdy, but with bows, it just never has done it. Same with rifles too. If I have a 400 Legend I bought because I wanted to get something new, brought my cousin out hunting and I shot it in. I got it like an inch high at 50 yards. I'm like, it's good to go.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I just got it like the hill. Like I have buddies who are like, oh, what's the MOA? Okay. You know, and they got it all.
That's our brother Isaac. He cares
Yeah.
about that. So I have him
But he also
guns in
shoots
for me.
He also shoots bears and
Yeah.
deer at 400 yards, so he needs
That 400 Legend is pretty sweet, isn't it?
It's great.
My buddy, I was in the blind with my buddy Tyler this year, and he shot his buck with one, and the blood trail was crazy, and it went like 40 yards and piled up, and
It's
awesome.
in no recoil. So that's why I actually bought it, because I bought a bog
Yeah,
bog pod.
death grip or whatever.
he was literally using it with his this year when he shot his.
Well, I bought it for my son because my son will be 5 in June, and he went on his first deer hunt with me this year. We sat for like an hour in a box blind. He kind of was like, all right, Dad. I'm like, hey, dude, no pressure, man.
Right.
But I know pretty soon he'll be wanting, I'm not going to pressure him, but I'm like, by the time he's 8 or 10, I'm not going to give him a 450 Bushmaster. I'm like, give it hell, you know? Like,
Break his shoulder.
When we were kids, it was damn 12 gauges with
Yeah.
fucking Brennickes, you know,
yeah.
blow you halfway across the yard.
I know. I can relate to that.
Well, let's break the ice a little bit more. How do you feel about crossbows?
Well, honestly, I feel like I'm prepared for this because you'd mentioned something. So, you know, for the audience, but I don't think crossbows are nearly as big of an issue as several other things that are a threat to deer hunters in Ohio. I think crossbows, now don't get me wrong, some of these newer bows that are, you know, capable of doing things that are basically like a shotgun. I mean,
100 yard range.
yeah, I mean, from a distance perspective and all that. But if it's legal, you know, I don't have really a big issue with crossbows. I personally, I don't think there's a debate that shooting a deer with a compound bow is harder. And you'll see this on Facebook forums, and I'll probably get a couple hate emails here today. But I've shot deer with a crossbow when I was younger. And when I switched to a compound, I learned a lot about stand placement.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're
cover.
I mean,
movement.
you just are not going to just point and shoot. I mean, I'd have some hammers on the wall if I would have just stuck with the crossbow. But I do think that if you eliminated crossbows, which this brings up, and I don't have the stats, but people keep saying, you know, we're losing hunters at a, you know, huge rate. I do think you would lose hunters. What I think some of the other topics that are brought up and used as a crutch, like, oh, everyone's going to quit hunting if we got rid of those. I don't think that's the case. Like, I don't think if you got rid of baiting, you're going to lose a whole bunch of hunters.
No, I think you just get a lot more hunters that are going to break the law.
You either get a lot of people who are breaking the law, which you have that with anything.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that's like a good argument for making a decision either from like a QD or from a DNR perspective of like, well, we can't monitor it, right? Like, well, but I do think if you eliminate crossbows, I think you'll have a lot less people hunting.
I don't think you're wrong. I think bow season will have a lot less people hunting. I think it'll make the gun season more of a cultural thing again. I think the fact that we now have crossbows that can do what they do, and they are so readily, you can go to Walmart and buy a crossbow that shoots 300.
Go to the Chatham General Store.
Yeah, you can go right there. You can go to Chatham General Store, buy a brand new 10-point.
Yeah.
I think that has changed gun hunting in Ohio forever. You know, now people still do it, but a lot of times it's doe camps or groups of guys getting there just to do some deer driving, or the guy that hasn't killed his buck yet is using a 400 Legend with a bog pod because he wants to be able to shoot 250 yards and kill that deer that he's been trying to get. I think it has changed gun hunting culture because gun hunting culture used to be huge. You know, opening day of gun season, you'd hear hundreds and hundreds of shots and everyone be meeting up at the gas station and all that kind of thing. And then with the advancement of the crossbow, it went away.
I agree with you. It's a really good point. And I actually recall seeing data about 1.5 or 2 years ago. And you just reminded me of this, but it was interesting because what it showed was that I forget what state it was, but they did do, maybe it was Wisconsin. They outlawed crossbows. Mm-hmm. So you did see like 2-year decline in archery harvest, but then almost simultaneously, I think it was the gun harvest went up. Yeah. And then after a certain number of years, your compound harvest started climbing.
Yeah.
So the guys who are diehard are like, hey, like I
still want to bow hunt.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to give up 6 or what is Ohio season's like 13 months long. It's like,
it's literally, I think it's almost 5. Like it's over 4.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's way too long.
I would agree with you 100% on that.
It's way too long.
I hate the I like late season hunting. I hate how late our season goes.
It's too late. I also like hunting late season, but not.
Do you know how many fawns we've dropped on the floor here while we're gutting deer?
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, dude, they're this big already. Some of them. You know, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't like that. Not about the fawns. I mean, I think you can get some really good data if you measure them and stuff like that. If you're interested in that from like a QDMA perspective, but I just think killing shed bucks.
We did this year completely on accident. You know,
it happened.
It fucking happens, unfortunately.
And you guys are in the woods a lot.
We're in the woods a ton. We had all the highest end camera gear and batteries and binoculars and everything with us, and we still made a mistake.
Yeah.
Like we still made that mistake because it pulled the old bait and switch. And, you know, we watched him come in, and I mean, I'm sure you saw the video. And then Ethan just puts a perfect 10 ring on this nice 2.5-year-old buck that doesn't have antlers on.
Yeah,
the shed's back here somewhere.
Yeah, we found his shed was in the pile. So yeah, it's very unimpressive.
Yeah, but I mean, so that's one thing about that. But I think, I don't think you would lose. I guess I'll back up my earlier statement. I think you would probably lose some people initially, but to your point, maybe they just go into gun season. I kind of feel the same way about cell cameras. I think it's easy to look at it like from a selfish perspective, like, hey, I don't want my neighbors having cell cameras killing all my deer. But I also think we have to realize that the younger generation has grown up with iPads and phones and things like that in their hand. And we have to give them something that gets them excited. Because like a lot of people are like, oh, our grandpaps hunted and they never used these cell cameras and stuff. Yeah, but they also never had an iPhone.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think we have to give on something. And with all of these things, it's hard to separate like what's best for the animal and the herd and what's best for me on my personal property. Mm-hmm. What scares me about baiting or the absence of baiting.
You knew I was going to ask you that next, right?
Yeah. Well, just in general, like those categories is the argument I always hear is if Ohio outlaws baiting, we're not going to kill enough does. Is like one of the pro baiting arguments.
So I think that's a farce because we're not killing does anyways.
Well, so my point is I think I agree. So I'll just use my farm, for example. So we have a few hundred acres, awesome neighbors for the most part. I mean, all of them I know, I added it up one time. It was like 2,000 acres of neighbors. We all get along.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
That's good. Most of them want to kill big deer.
How many people is that for the 2,000 acres?
Oh, it's like 3 or 4 landowners.
Yeah.
Now,
that'd be nice.
Now some of them have, a group of guys that hunt. Like the one is like 600 acres they own, and
I mean that's still best case scenario.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
It's a good thing, and like even
so we have a 20 plus where you're sitting right now. There's 20 properties that touch.
Wow,
where you're sitting right now.
Wow,
20.
Yeah. I mean, I believe it though,
and it's hard. It's hard. You know what I mean? It's hard.
Yeah, I mean it's. So like in our situation, and you still, even in that, you still will have a guy who you're like, well, I don't know this 300 acre piece, and they have 300 acres or 200 acres or even 100 acres, but they had to put the stand, right on my line.
Right. Yeah.
You're like, that seems.
Because the grass is always greener. Like there's something good over there that deer are going to come out of.
Yeah.
Even if there's not.
Yeah. It's just inevitable. But in that scenario, I mean, these guys have time and money invested, myself included. So they're all running feeders. They all have food plots. They all only are hunting with accesses absolutely perfect. Mm-hmm. So the guy a quarter mile, half a mile, 1 mile away, who's like, man, I hunt 6 times a year. I just like to shoot a few does for the family. Well, he's not going to compete with this 2,000 acre block where guys there's 18 semi-tons of corn plus 30, 40, 50 acres of food plots if you add it all up that are unmolested, hardly hunted, and that's a small section of Ohio. But that happens in a lot of places.
Especially down by in that southeast
belt.
The
southeast portion. We have larger. Belt. I mean, you look at Scioto Land Company, these guys are leasing up 4,000 acres. Mm-hmm. And they're shooting a 170 off of it. And then it's like, I'm out. But they're running supplemental feed and corn.
Do your neighbors kill a lot of does?
No.
Yeah. So I know there's been some recent podcasts, and I haven't listened. I'm very bad at listening to podcasts that I should listen to. People send them to me, or our group chats will talk about them. You know, so-and-so is on Hunter, or so-and-so is on Working Class Bow Hunter, or this podcast or whatever. But I did see some, I see the reels on Instagram every once in a while, and there was some conversation recently. I think it was on Hunter. So someone's going to be able to step in and correct me in the comments. But yeah, no one's shooting does. I mean, there are people that shoot does. I'm a bad example this year. And so we've kind of talked about this a lot, and we reference Born Again Matt. When I reference Born Again Matt, you know who that is, right?
I do know.
The Born Again Bow Hunters podcast.
Okay.
They're friends of ours.
Yeah.
So they're friends of ours, and we're in some group chats with them, and we talk daily about just stuff. So because they're like-minded individuals. Did he kill $4 this year? He killed $3 this year. I killed $3 this year. Neither of us killed a doe. So between the three of us, there was the two of us, there was $6 killed and no does. Now that's uncommon for both of us. Matt kills does usually, and I kill does usually. But this year with scheduling and how the hunts were working, I was killing a buck on the opening day of my trips, and it's once that happens, the kind of the option to kill does kind of starts to dwindle out.
Oh, absolutely.
And then with my love of filming, I started filming these guys. I was filming my buddies, and our group did not kill the amount of does that we usually do.
Me and Luke always kill some does.
It's funny because as you get, I don't want to say better, but as you get more wise in the woods and experienced in the woods, when we first started doing all this stuff, we were making videos where we were just whacking does, and we would have a doe hunting video be the main video for the week because that's all we were, able to do. We weren't quite good, I guess is the word for it. So we killed a lot of does back in the day on film, learned how to film hunts, learned how to, like you said, learn how to move in the tree and use your compound bow and get the shot on film, and you learn a lot doing that. But fast forward 10 years now, we're all, hunting these bucks that we're after, and the amount of does we started to kill has dropped, unfortunately, and we are guilty of that, and we need to do better. I wish I did better this last year, and I just didn't, but we do need to kill more does.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone needs to kill more does.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Of course, somebody will comment and go, not on my place, and we can get into that later, but I think one of the biggest issues, especially owning a company that deals with people from all over the Midwest and even in the Northeast, is one of the first things I ask is like, well, what are you using to measure how many deer you have on the landscape?
Right.
Do you have an exclusion fence up in a food plot? No. Do you monitor native browse? Like, are you looking like, okay, beech is a species in Ohio, maybe, in the Adirondacks of New York or something, maybe it's more browsable. But like in Ohio, you talk to any state forester, they're like, nah, they shouldn't really be eating beech. They shouldn't really be eating, pignut hickory. I'm talking if it's on the ground,
Yeah.
It's kind of bitter. Are you walking through the woods and identifying species and going, holy cow, these deer are not just eating it, they're smashing it. Oh, okay, now let's look at these food plots. Well, I didn't plant a half acre. I planted 30 acres. Each one has 2-3 foot missing.
Yeah.
Those are, I think, you can't rely on hunter observation to determine what the deer density is. Because a coyote could have ran through there right before you got to, you don't know.
Right.
And there's so many things.
That's a positive to the cell cams that we, talked about cell cams before. That's a big positive using them because they can remotely monitor everything at the same time, simultaneous,
Yeah.
if you want numbers.
Absolutely. Or at least get you close. And that's where, like, with the baiting thing.
So you never answer. Are you for or against it? What would you like to see?
I don't know anybody that owns property and manages property, at least in a very serious level. I'm talking running a chainsaw all winter, killing invasives, planting food plots, pulling sotas. That's like, yeah, I still want baiting. Because you're spending time doing something. You're like, I know scientifically there's no data that backs up pure corn.
No, nothing. That's my biggest argument. There's no data saying do this.
No, there's none that says it's beneficial.
This is the only thing.
You're right.
It's money.
So I think that it's I don't know anybody that wouldn't support it going away that owns property. Who I do feel bad for is the guy who has, 5 or 6 properties, but they're all 5 or 10 acres only.
Yeah.
That's tough. They don't own them.
And they're trying to draw deer either out of the suburbs or even out here. There's tons of 5-acre plots. They're up against guys like us. We have a couple hundred in our chunks, and they're like, well, I need,
well, of course,
I need to be able to get them to come my way too.
So I try to look at it both ways because, of course, for me, having a few hundred acres, we manage it really. Of course, I'm like, yeah, kick baiting out because I don't want this.
Do you
guy
bait still though?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we do too, but we hate it.
I mean, I don't like it. I would just because
It's like post nut clarity of like, God, I hate it. But we still do it.
I like baiting out of season. Like even
summertime, you do a lot of baiting.
Like not in the summer, more so like we've done a little bit of supplemental bait, like after
shed
season.
hunting baiting.
And I enjoy that because honestly, it's like what deer made it.
Yeah.
You get a ton of camera pictures.
Correct.
Like that's enjoyable to me. Yeah. And even putting bait down during the season, you're like waiting on that camera to go off. I mean, it's because it's a fun way to get pictures. But I think that from a private lands perspective, would it make some of those smaller properties less consistent,
obsolete,
or less consistent?
Yeah. If you have a 5-acre stand of junk maple,
yeah,
which is a good tree to have, but not for hunting,
right?
You know what I mean? Like,
so what are you going to do? Are you going to just quit hunting, or are you just going to stick it out and kill one during the rut while they're running through there?
Put up 32 mock scrapes.
Yeah, there you go.
Dig like 4 water holes and introduce EHD to your property.
Get a couple ratchet straps to pull the trees down. So I think it's not an easy one to say like yes or no. My fear again though is, and we can get into some of the data on some of the stuff that I've collected, is even with baiting, nobody's shooting does.
Yeah, they're not.
The state of Ohio isn't really giving tags out in big enough quantity for the people who want to shoot does. Like what, you can kill 2 does here.
Yeah, if we want to shoot a buck, we can only kill 2 does.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
So if
and someone always will say, well, yeah, you can hunt my property. They're doing hell on my crops. I would love for you guys to take some does. Well, when you have 3 farmers tell you that, and you have your own farm, but you can only shoot 2,
right?
Where it's hard to do.
So then you ask, well, can my buddies hunt? Well, no, I'm not really comfortable. Well, it's like I got no mouths to feed. You know what I mean? Yeah. I need mouths to feed.
Well, and that's the ODNRs was like, okay, why don't you guys just let people come here and shoot does? It's like, well, what you were saying earlier, kids, work,
right.
And even if we've done that, I've brought in my cousins, uncles, and you wouldn't believe how hard it is to get people to shoot does.
Yeah.
Uncles, I'm like, how many did you guys see last night? I'm like, I was tagged out one year. I'm waiting at the house. I have to crack the window open in the kitchen, thinking, I'll hear them shoot. It was rifle season. I think it was bonus rifle. I put them on this. I mean, it's about as guaranteed of a spot to see deer as you get. And I'm thinking, okay, any minute. It gets dark. They come like, man, I gar hold them? What the hell happened? He's like, we saw 26 tonight. I just didn't feel like messing with a deer.
Too cold. And
yeah, and
cold,
I'm like, dude,
it get bloody.
Well, I'll donate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got two interrupting thoughts here. I got to jump in. Thought number 1, we were guilty of that this year. A couple of us were hunting bucks and filming the hunt for bucks and trying to get that content. And that buck was still alive during gun season. So we're passing 30 does a day because we don't want to shoot at, we don't want to, which ironically, I don't know if it would matter because the neighbor shot, like when me and Nick were hunting, the neighbor shot 40 times, throughout the week, and they were still shooting and there was still deer. So it's not like it would have done anything, but who wants to drag a deer out after dark when your buck's in there somewhere holed up on a doe? The wrong way to look at it, but the truth.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, thing 2 is, let's take the non-residents or the out-of-staters or your cousins coming in from somewhere. There's a bunch of rules now on moving parts of the brain and all that bullshit. So you come in here on a week-long trip to hunt public land or even a lease or whatever, your buddy's property, and you're trying to kill a buck, but you'll take some does. I'll spend that extra money to kill some does. Well, then you have to get it processed here. And if you're not a guy like us who processes his own deer, you're taking a doe to the processor and, well, I want some ground, make me some jerky and blah, 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 blah. Debone it for me because I'm hunting, so I can't spend 2 days working on this thing. And he slides that bill across the table for $394 for the doe you shot. And you're like, what the fuck? Who's going to pay that? 3 times or 2 times when they come from out of state.
And then you get your buck that's even bigger and it costs more.
Yeah. So you're spending $1,000 in meat and processing fees while you're here hunting and spending whatever amount of money you're spending to travel here. And that's a huge part of it. If you could take them home or if it was easier to get them processed cheaper, I think you'd see more out of non-residents kill them, but I don't blame the non-residents for not killing them.
Well, I mean, I've taken it to the point where after doing this for 20 years and collecting enough data, like we built a cool bot in our barn.
We're debating it. We've been talking about it for years
because it's just like, I don't care what anybody says. killing deer early season is the easiest time of the year to kill them.
Yeah, or at least the most fun and enjoyable, because we can kill them pretty easy in January. But God dang it, does it suck dragging a deer out when it's -5 degrees in the snow, bringing it back here and trying to start working on it when it's frozen solid. It just sucks. If we could do it in October, the first week of October, it'd be beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like we used to always, we had recently in the last 5 years made some nice upgrades to our barn. We were fortunate to do that. Before, it was just like a wood panel barn.
Yeah.
You could see, you know. So we insulated the barn, and one of the things we were like, you know what, let's build just, you could probably fit 4 or 5 deer in it. It's not huge.
I need your plans for that.
But yeah, I can share them. Yeah. And we insulated the hell out of it, and even the floor. So we built the floor up. So put insulation there, put the cool
Did you slope it?
Yeah, slightly. It's not as good as...
Because I know it's hard for walking, but like, I think a slope to a drain basin
I
would
wish
be kind of ideal.
I wish we would have done that. It's not on the outermost wall, just like the way the barn. We had like a workshop. So, but it hasn't been bad because we did put marine grade plywood or whatever the term, and then we also treated that a couple times with so it just like will beat up.
Do you throw a tarp down?
Yeah, I was gonna say. So then after a couple times we realized we're like, all right, let's put a tarp.
Right.
And then we have a hose there. We just and it works pretty good with a squeegee.
Yeah.
But we got to the point where it's like early season. Oh, here comes a doe, and you're like, well, it's 70 degrees out.
Right.
You know, and
I don't feel like messing with it all night.
I have 3 hours tonight to deal with it.
No. And then when we got that, it drastically changed. Like my son, he was actually 3 at the time. My cousin, who's like one of my best friends, he had lived in Ohio, moved back to Maryland. Now he eventually would like to move back to Ohio, but he was up hunting, and opening morning, it's like 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, hey, I can't. Me and Bryce are here. I can't go out this morning. Mom and Dad were going to be there later to watch Bryce, so I could hunt in the evening. Anyhow, I'm like, let us know. I'm like out. My son's like watching Paw Patrol or something, and 7:30, 7:45. He's like, all right, got one down. You know, and it's like that opening morning is like 72 degrees outside, and there was no worries.
Yeah.
We were like high-fiving because we're like, all right, we got her cleaned up, you know, hung her up, and got her in that, and stayed 36 degrees in there.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then obviously if you want to butcher it, you can do it at your own.
Right, take it quartered out and work on it one at a time. You know?
Yeah, or if you have, like you said, if you have a place to go, like, or whatever. But I think those are some of the complexities with, if you outlaw baiting, I think that you would see more does getting shot on some of those smaller properties, especially during like gun season and stuff. Because I know many people who during gun season, they don't hunt their properties and they just fill feeders.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's we have a lot of guys in our group actually that despise gun hunting because they enjoy the bow hunting aspect of it. They're chasing target bucks. They want, all the things, right, that we love to do. And gun season is just such a disaster around here at times with guys trespassing or shooting after dark, or just dudes that haven't hunted all year hunting right on the property line, So a lot of our guys will pivot and defensively bait and try not to hunt and do what they can and get as many of the 2, 3, 4-year-old bucks to live through the gun season, which I know there's going to be people commenting, well, that's a selfish attitude to have, but
well, it is.
But if you spend $10,000 a year on deer hunting or $20,000 a year on deer hunting because it is your main hobby, I don't see how trying to make the best hunting for you and your family and your friends is the wrong thing if you're that far into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think any hobby will lead to some level of selfishness.
Of course.
If you're into golf, you want the best tee time.
Yeah.
You want to play the best, whatever. Like
you're
that's, right. I mean, I think in hunters, we all like
go to the gym and play basketball with some guys and see how those pickup games work, Yeah.
Like
there's guys there, they're going to run the court and tell you what's happening and
throw
you're out, you're in, and that's just the way it is,
Yeah. And I think that's what's really hard about hunting regulations is twofold. One is you have what's best for me. The other piece is what's best for the resource.
Right. I don't think they take so this is a topic that we've talked about in private a lot. It hasn't been talked about on the podcast a ton, but we're going to start introducing it in the podcast. I referenced the Born Again guys again with their podcast, Born Again Bow Hunting. They have recently started spending time going to the meetings in Columbus and getting involved with the Hunters Advocacy of Ohio. And they're really taking an effort to be involved in some of these decisions or the processes. And they're finding out real fast that the only thing that matters is the dollar. Everything that can be said in a meeting, you could have presentations and I want this, I need this, I think this is right. A biologist will say this. The decisions that are made by the lawmakers are all ultimately influenced by balancing the budget and who's helping donate, lining the coffers, and money. You know, there's no, like the baiting thing, when I bring this up, it's always the hottest of topics, and we all do it, we all hate it. It won't go away, I don't think, because so many people are advocating for we need to be able to sell in our feed store, Centera, and all these things, and the Farm Bureau, and all these companies that sell millions of pounds of corn in Ohio. If that went away, they would complain too much, and that's what drives that regulation. Because, like you said, there's no benefit throwing corn on the ground for deer, nutritionally, biologically.
Yeah,
it does boost the economy because people come over from Pennsylvania and Indiana, and they can't bait in their states, but they come here, they buy the bait,
take it back to their states.
Well, they could buy it in their state too, but they don't. They come here and buy our bait and then put it on our land.
Have you ever, side topic for fun, have you ever been like to a Walmart in Indiana or Pennsylvania?
Oh yeah,
they got all the stuff.
Oh yeah,
and it sells out.
Deer corn,
and you're hundreds of miles from the border, so everyone's not everyone, but they're all baiting. They're all running minerals, even though they're not technically allowed to. It's happening. Yeah, that's what would happen in Ohio. If somehow they were able to push the CWD, which we all think might even be a hoax anyways, but if they were able to make it so baiting is going to be outlawed, I still think a very large number of people would do it.
Well, I think the biggest thing that will change in Ohio, and again, I'm not pro or for, like, if you got rid of it, I wouldn't be sad.
Yeah,
but like I don't feel like I need to pass my moral judgment as a hunter onto others. And I think that's like a weird thing that hunters do. They're like, well, you killed that deer with a crossbow, I'm better than you. Like, if it's legal and a dude does it and he kills a 180, like, and somebody goes, well, you don't have your bow in the picture. What'd you kill it with? I'm like, hey, did he kill it legally?
What about if you take a picture of your deer with a compound bow, but you killed it with a crossbow?
Well, that's lame.
Okay.
You can't, that's lying.
We know some guys. We know a guy. We caught it. That's
lying. I mean, you're right. Like, that's like saying you killed it with a gun and then you put a bow on there.
But it's that kind of behavior that influences a lot of what we're talking about, though. Guys that want to put up an image of, well, I was able to kill this 150-inch buck without bait, with my regular bow, no cell cameras, public land, from a saddle. We start adding these layers to why I'm a better hunter than you, or and it gets tiring.
I also think that some guys think that baiting is so easy, and I always pose it this way to guys, because I have a lot of buddies from Michigan, so they outlawed baiting. Yep. Be, Ohio's so easier, or if you can bait in Ohio, it's so. And I go, I've known you all for like a decade, and you've been coming to Ohio and had leases and could bait and do. I think you've killed like one buck.
Right.
So I'm like, if it's so easy, I'm like, it's not so easy if everybody's doing it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I'm like, that's number one. The other thing is, I've shot deer with a mouthful of corn before.
Yeah.
Totally legal. I have never not got the shakes, not got excited. So like, to me, if I see, I don't care, young, old, whoever, kill a big deer, and I know how one guy who's just him and his daughter, absolute monsters.
Up on the border to the northwest?
No, he's actually the opposite way. He's towards southeast.
Because
just south.
Does he have a big presence on Facebook?
Canton, I think so.
Because I know who you're talking about. His daughter already has like 7 150s.
Yeah, probably.
Robbie, and she's like 14.
It's like Robbie McElroy.
No, Rory McIlroy's the guy winning the tournament. No, I know who you're talking about.
But like, I talked to him. He's a really nice guy, and he's like, yeah, I kill him over corn.
Yeah. But
he also is like, I would be totally for banning corn.
Yeah.
But that guy, I guarantee you, he's a hell of an outdoorsman. I mean, you take duck season, dudes shooting ducks. Take trout season, dudes like.
Right.
He's going to continue to be successful. So I think I do think that the passing of moral judgment is really a slippery slope as hunters get. It's like, listen, this isn't the professionals, this isn't the PGA of golf or what, like, we're all trying to have fun. So if it's legal, now where I have issues, of course, is if people are doing things illegally, that's where I don't think. And I do think Some of the drone stuff gets into that gray area.
Yeah, I was gonna end up there before we go into your story about your drone survey. I was gonna end up on drones. When it comes to thermals, and I'm not just talking thermal drones, an issue that we've noticed slightly starting to rear its head is they've made crossbow scopes. They've made thermal crossbow scopes cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. We have a good source saying that down at where do we buy the Wise Eyes?
Premier Outdoors.
Premier Outdoors. They sell a shit ton of thermal crossbow scopes to the Amish. So you have a weapon now that time doesn't really matter. They can shoot 100 yards during bow season silently. These, and I'm not accusing anyone in particular. It's just those are the slopes. Once you allow something, the slope starts getting slipperier and slipperier and slipperier. Now we have thermal crossbow scopes. Not a huge fan, but let's pivot to the drones, because your story that you're going to bring up here when we're going to talk about this drone survey that you did utilizes a thermal drone. We've talked about them at length on this podcast. For recovery, it's a great tool, but I do think as the price point comes down and more of the public is able to get their hands on these things, I think they're going to start to be abused. I already know that they are being abused in some areas, and the DNR doesn't really have a good stance on what is legal and what's not. I've talked to multiple guys that have a position within the ODNR, from warden to legislation to, the guys on the council, and they all say something different as opposed to what they would consider legal when it comes to the drones.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on it before we get into your story.
I think we're probably pretty close. I mean, I think like anything, again, it's so hard to say, how are these going to be used? Anything can be abused, but I think that they are probably the best tool I've seen in my life. I don't want to speak for anybody else, from a management perspective, for the average guy to be able to have access to.
To see how many deer are actually on their property.
If you want to look at how many deer are on a given piece of property, or get some neighbors together, and to be able to do that, and I'm not a tech guy at all, but with some of the software that they have where they can upload it and show exactly where they were from a bedding perspective, and you can look at that and go, wow, why are they using this habitat? Oh, that's a clear cut we had done, or that was all maple that we took down, and now it's much better secondary successional habitat, right? Now somebody go, oh yeah, but that those deer are bedding there now. You don't. Mississippi State has done enough collared studies where these deer are traveling. There's some does on occasion.
I love the Mississippi State studies.
I've
love them.
Got a couple chances to talk to Dr. Bronson Strickland, both on a personal basis and on a couple podcasts. And he's just such a humble and brilliant guy. I wish sometimes he had a little bit more ego, because I'm like, you need to share this more aggressively, some of the data points.
What I hate is if you bring up a Mississippi State study to a lot of guys, they'll be like, well, that's fucking bullshit. It's the South. It doesn't count. The terrain that they use down there along the riverbanks is very similar to Washington County, Ohio, the Ohio River, these river basins. It's forested woodland with low-lying crop fields. They think it's Mississippi. They're thinking bog country, cypress swamps, and that's not where these studies are being done.
Right.
And the studies are awesome. The collared deer studies are amazing.
Well, and a lot of it mimics Penn State studies
Correct.
too.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a Midwest. Okay, but
unfortunately, not every. It would be cool if if every state had a university that had the funding to do those kinds of studies.
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
Imagine if Akron could do those studies. What it would mean for people like us. But obviously that's not going to happen. But
Ohio is such diverse. Most places have such diverse terrain. It doesn't matter, because Southern Ohio is a lot different than Northern Ohio or Western Ohio or Eastern Ohio. It's all different.
But I think it gives you any of those studies. It gives you at least, even like the Mississippi, say, okay, well, I don't think you can discount all of it.
No.
Right. So even if you're like,
deer's still deer. That's what people don't like. A deer is still a deer biologically. We give them too much credit for adapting. I think.
Oh yeah.
It takes thousands of years for changes to happen with an animal, right? So are there some differences on deer living in the inner city in Columbus and the deer living in Mississippi State? Very, very minimal. They are biologically the exact same creature with the exact same senses. Do they grow up in a different environment? Yes, but they are still the same animal.
Yeah.
There's no difference there. We don't have much of there's not a gap to where the populations have, grown up in their own atmosphere and changed what they are. It's just not that way.
Well, I could actually go on a tangent and stop me if you don't want me to. But
I'll go ahead.
I'm a nerd, and so I always read, and I read Strategic Harvest Systems by Dr. Bronson Strickland, Dr. Steve Damaris, many years ago. And what they did in that study is they actually took, so there's always been this perpetuated narrative of, well, those Iowa deer are bigger because they're genetics, or Ohio deer are bigger because of their genetics, but these southern deer are small because of their genetics. And that's like a half truth. So what they were able to do is they took the state of Mississippi, and don't quote me, but it's ballpark. They took Mississippi Delta region. That's their biggest whitetails.
Fertile soil.
Yeah, very fertile soil. They basically have more food that they can eat, and a lot of irrigated crops. So the overall stress levels reduced, right, in hot Mississippi summers. And then they have like the lower third. I think they call it the Gulf Plains or something like that. And that's like a lot of red pine, sandy soil.
What you would picture like Georgia type.
Yeah. Long needle pine or long leaf pine, sandy soil. So just inherently lower in fertility.
Right.
And then I think the northern part of the state, and that's kind of like in between from a deer quality perspective. So there was a big group of people in the southern part of like Mississippi saying, you need to send us these deer from the Delta and bring them down here so we can get some genes in here.
Right.
So Mississippi State did it, and I don't know if it was, I want to say it was like a 9-year study, and that assumes that a 3-year like genetic expression period. And they brought them in fenced areas, and they kept them in the same fenced areas, and they fed them unlimited food. So the Delta deer did grow by time like the third generation came through, but they only grew by like, let's say 5%. Again, it's been years, but let's say 5% of antler expression.
Ballpark.
The lower damn near caught up body weight and antler
because the
expression.
environment was more controlled, right?
Right. So what it comes down to is what's called epigenetic triggers, which is a DNA switch on and off. So a common like analogy that you could use is like during the Great Depression, a lot of people had kids that were small. They were stunted. Maybe the mother didn't have food
intake was bad. Correct. They were only eating the same thing every single day. Bad.
But
water.
then their kids after World War II
got bigger.
They're like, holy smokes! Look at Jim. He's 6'4" and his dad's 5'9".
Yeah.
It's not that there was some. He. Hopefully, it wasn't it wasn't the mailman, right? Like it's the fact that the epigenetic triggers, because now you're in a period of time.
Well, it's the thriving, not thriving. Like if you're surviving, you're not thriving.
Exactly.
If you're thriving, you can grow to you can accomplish anything. But if you're just surviving, things are shutting down. You're centering your
right.
Your
so 200-inch deer.
Right.
You're still probably talking 1% of all genetic potential, right?
Yeah.
But in general, you can get deer really big.
Well, look at the farms, right? So
yes,
anyone that has high fence farms, like all of a sudden a couple years of breeding and a doe here, a doe there, and your 2-year-olds are 300 inches.
Yeah.
It quickly. So I didn't mean to interrupt you on that, but what you're saying is soil quality and nutrients that are just naturally around the deer was a bigger factor than. Well, we live in southern Georgia, so
absolutely. And I have customers that in Tennessee and Georgia and some of these areas. The one gentleman in Tennessee, he's shooting 160-inch deer in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Now he's got a big farm, 400 acres, and he feeds them high quality. Like he's not putting corn out. High quality protein feed. It's not a high fence.
Right.
Keeps his doe numbers in checks. Yep. Plants an unbelievable amount of high diverse food plots that he actually runs cattle on, but he also has obviously deer feeding in those as well because he's using GPS collared tracking. So he's moving his cows. I think it's like once every 2 days. So, I mean, when the cows are out of there, those deer are like, oh, sweet. They're in there. And he's reduced the number of deer on the farm, does and stuff like that. So the population balances there. So yeah, he's growing really big deer. People go like, oh, well, you can't grow big deer in Tennessee. It's like, why not?
Right.
Now maybe some of the regulations hurt if you can shoot $5 a year or whatever. Some of the southern regulations are pretty wild, but from going back to the drone perspective, I think that to be able to have some of that data from a deer density perspective is amazing, and I think finding deer with them is an unbelievable tool. I've used them not for myself, but been there on a track when they've been used 2 different times. One was a 1/4-2 shot on a pretty nice 10-point buck, and it was like front long guts, just a little bit too, didn't tuck it in tight. That's a tough shot. And I saw the arrow like about 6 hours before the drone got there, and I was like, yeah, we're giving this deer time. Let's see if we can get a drone. And the deer only went probably 50, 60 yards, was still alive, unfortunately. But that drone found that deer in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And we were like, we'll come back in the morning. Came back, that deer was laying right there. There's no way a dog, and I mean, I've used some great dogs and everything, but like, you know, I love dogs, but there's no way anything can match that. It's so effective. The second time, honestly, I don't even know how this deer went. It went like 300 yards. It was like back of both lungs, and it was bleeding really good. And we just got to the point where like, I mean, could we be pushing this deer? Like we gave it, like what's going on? Called the drone, found it in probably 10 minutes, and deer was dead as a doornail. Yeah. And we were close. I mean, we had been, could we have found that? Probably. But like to have that safety, I think it's a great thing. Yeah. I think where it gets tricky is when you fly the drone, maybe you find the deer that you had alive, doesn't seem to be injured, and now you have this data and it's noon, and you're like, well, it's noon on November 3rd.
Go back out there.
Right. Should I go get on this ridge top? And that's where it's like, again, I'm not casting my moral judgment on something, but I think if you have to sleep, you have to sleep at night with that, in my opinion. Like that's up to not you, but that person.
Correct.
You know, but right now it's not illegal, right?
So there's multiple ways of trying to delineate that, but from what I understand, from what I've been told and what I understand, once the drone's on the ground, it kind of ends the fact that you're using the drone to help find the deer, and you can theoretically go and try and hunt said deer. They don't know how to regulate that part.
Yeah.
Because I could just, you have to be okay with it yourself. But I could just lie and say, well, I was looking for my dog. I didn't notice the deer. I didn't see the deer. There's a million ways that because what it comes down to is, can they prosecute you for it? Can they prove that you used a drone to find the deer, went out, hunted because of that information, killed said deer because of the drone, and then take it to a judge and have them actually convict you of a crime? Mm-hmm. Can they write you a ticket for it? Yeah. If you fight it, will you win? Probably. So are they going to stop writing tickets? Yeah. So that's the problem.
Yeah.
I don't think at first that was really anything that was going to be an issue, because they cost $20,000 at first, and it costs $500 to break it out. So the cost barrier will keep people honest. Well, as things have become cheaper, everyone starts to get one. You got a buddy, this and that. I mean, we know they're being used to scout for deer after dark and before hunting. I mean, we just know they are. People tell us they're doing it, and there's nothing wrong with that legally. But I think I have a moral problem with it, and I think most of the guys on our podcast do, because we're very traditional. We're kind of, the most technological thing we do is run cell cameras, and a lot of people will say, well, what's the difference between a cell camera and a drone? You fucking loser. You got a million cell cameras. So I can only put that cell camera where I'm allowed to be, looking at what I'm allowed to see, and it can only see so much. Is it way better than a traditional camera? Yes. Does it skew fair chase a little bit according to some of the big organizations? Maybe a little bit, because you can get a lot of data off a cell camera. But man, these drones, I could check every neighbor's property. I could check your properties. I could spy on my neighbor's wife. I can do anything with it, and there's no repercussion. And that's way too much for me, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is with cell cameras, even how good they've gotten is they still miss pictures. I mean, you're not.
Oh yeah, we've done plenty of tests, and I think you're going to talk about this here in a minute.
But like,
plenty of tests where they just don't send.
How many times have you just, without even doing a test, been sitting in a deer stand, watch deer go by, and you're like, oh man, that looked like a good. I can't wait to see it.
Or you have like so we'll put like a video trail camera on a food plot and leave it for 6 months, and then at the end of the season, I'll be like going through it. I'll be like, dude, my cell camera did not get this buck. What the fuck? He's smoking a scrape 2:00 in the afternoon in November, and your cell camera's 10 yards away, and you're like, dude, I never got that picture.
So I was tagged out this year. This deer will be
was wondering what buck with that was. I'm
six
like,
and
what the fucking deer is that? It is. Okay, that makes
This deer
sense.
will be 6.5 or 7.5 this coming fall. And this was him this year. He actually, his left side was way stronger than this side. Anyhow, I had this deer on a cell camera, and my uncle was hunting on the other side of the farm, and this deer was standing in a food plot, like, I forget what, November the 4th or something, 20 yards from a box blind, just eating in a food plot, and I never got the picture. I go through the SD card, I'm like, wait, that's splits. Like, what day was that?
Do you use Spartans?
No.
I was like, because I had problems with that with my Spartans.
So,
Because I would always check the memory cards, and I'll be like, dude, that picture never sent.
What do
that
you
picture
use?
never sent.
mostly Tacticams.
Junk.
My cousin bought some of the Moultries,
Okay, we ran a couple,
and we only ran them for a couple months.
the SD card list, the ones that don't take a card or nothing. Yeah,
And they see the Edge, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we don't have enough runtime in them, but I think they're pretty good. But the Tacticams work really well in some spots, but like that spot,
we say junk, but we also abuse our cell cameras. They'll be in the woods for 3 straight years.
I'm the same
You
way.
know what I mean? So
I'm the
like
same way.
after
They don't
3
get
years, when
great.
it stops sending a picture every once in a while, we like
Piece of
we
shit.
MF the thing, and it's like, dude, that thing has sent 500,000 pictures. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't owe us anything. We bought it for $89.
yeah.
But we still will MF it.
Well, yeah, just because it's like time to go back in there and
Yeah.
stuff. But this deer should have died. Well, that's a whole nother story for another day. Maybe after the podcast, I'll tell you a crazy story about that deer because he should have died about 5 times. But
There's a whole wall of deer here that should have died 5 times and never did.
And actually, I thought that deer was dead because he was so weak one year. The neighbor called me and was like, yeah, my father-in-law shot at him. We got his sheds. This was last year. And he looked bad because one of my guys who I let hunt the farm, he shot him and like hit him in the neck. And it was just like, and I'm like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks. Another
Do you
one.
think that contributes to like weak sides and stuff?
I think so. I mean, he was skinny.
Yeah.
And then he showed up this year. I forget when. I'm like, what? I'm like, that's him. Like I thought
He's alive.
100% he was dead.
Yeah.
And then actually as the season went on, like, I don't know if he just didn't rut that hard. Maybe he wasn't feeling that great, but like he actually looked like he gained weight. And then that was like the only shed I cared about finding. And
You found it.
yeah, I found it a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
But yeah, so with the drones, I mean, like anything, I think it can get abused.
Yeah.
And I think they need to. People are going to break the law. I think that's
75% hunters dirtbags.
that's a tough thing. It's like for me, I don't think we can judge what the law should be based on will people break them, because that's the argument I hear about baiting too. Well, everyone's just going to bait anyways. It's like, okay, well, everyone might speed, but we still
I was just going to bring it up. Everyone speeds.
You know,
it's breaking the law.
right. So I think we have to have some type of rule,
Right.
you know, and then if it happens, it happens. But I mean, just like poaching needs to have stricter.
Did you see that the 11 people busted or whatever?
Out of Guernsey County?
Yeah, they
Yes,
just
I
had
read that
a lot of the
this
guys were from
From
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah, I read that this morning.
They got like $180 fine, $250 fine, 6 months commuted sentence. Like no one got really in that much
Doesn't even
trouble
cover
for
the-
anything that they did.
Doesn't even cover the warden's salary for investigating it.
Yeah, like
The story, I have a pretty good friend of mine who's a game warden, and the stories you hear about, like, oh, if they put, bullwinkle buck out in the field, the robo buck,
yeah.
how many people would shoot at him like in a day?
Oh,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
75% hunters dirtbags, bro.
Probably around 50% of the people that drove by.
The number is staggering.
Dude, I know.
I'm like, wait, how many did you guys bust in a day? And he's like, oh, dude, during gun season? And
You just write him a ticket and let him go, right?
like, not just out of state, or I mean, there's a lot of people in Ohio who are knuckleheads too, but like these people, like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, like just one after another, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
These are the guys we're sharing the woods with. Doesn't it? That's what bothers me a little bit.
Well, I'm blessed because, and you guys are too, because you have your own place. But like, what I feel bad for is like these guys who are going out and hunting public. I mean, I grew up hunting Salt Fork,
Yeah.
and it's like, dude, I think I have PTSD from that.
What an abused place that is.
I mean, it's like, and they're still like my uncle and I, this was probably year like 2000. We'd go hunt Salt Fork, but we were bow hunting. Now I was 10, 11 years old, so I was using a crossbow. But dude, we would get into deer. I mean, it was like, we'd see 6, 7 deer sometimes. I'm like, that's a good sit, for public land. Come gun season, I mean, I killed a few deer there with a gun, but like, it was scary. It was, as a 12-year-old kid, I mean, it was scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scary as an adult.
We used to do the AAP thing back in the day. Like,
did you?
Yeah, down like Noble and Knox. Like, and it was, we stopped doing it because we have friends that still do it, and they're only in it because of the camaraderie and going around to the camps and drinking beer. Like, they never kill anything worth a damn. Kill some does and some basket rack deer. But like, we were doing that back in the day, and it was just wild. Like, just
see a doe run 40 yards in front of you, see the slug come over your shoulder.
You're hearing this.
Holy shit.
Vans of Amish and the whole 9 yards.
Well, then that's the thing. Again, it's like, selfishly, I don't hate that gun season has
died down,
slowed, because I used to be, I'd have so much daggum anxiety because, I mean, we've owned our place for almost 20 years. So 20 years ago, you'd hear a truck, barely going down the road, and then pow, and it's like my uncle would text me, which is like hard to even get service 20 years ago in southeastern Ohio, and I'd get a text, and he's like, dude, this guy just shot at a deer. He missed, but like it was literally standing in the road.
Yeah.
And like, that would just be commonplace.
Well, where our camp is down in West Virginia, like, I would say 30 to 40% of the guys hunting are just driving up and down the road and shooting a deer up in the hollers. And if they roll down the hill, they'll go get them. And if they don't, they just keep driving.
Yeah.
Because it's just, there's no law presence. It's just the way it's always been down there.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
It's amazing how
it's just, you got to accept it,
It's amazing that they catch as many people as they do. Like, even like that poaching case, I'm like, how do they even catch them? Because it's like the odds are there's one guy per county. It's,
right.
It's unbelievable.
And I think they had to, obviously the ODNR guys are made aware of a poaching situation during deer season almost every day, probably.
Yeah.
And then they had to start piecing together, well, it seems like there might be some serial activity by a certain person or in a certain area. And that's when they had to decide, all right, now we're going to start spending the money and our resources trying to catch that individual, cell phone records and all that surveillance stuff. It costs a lot of money. It's not like TV where you can just, hey, let's all hop in the van and go do a raid on this guy's house. Like, that's not how it works for the ODNR. So they had to choose which ones they go after. So I think a lot, unfortunately, fall through the cracks. The ODNR is not funded well. It costs a lot of money to run the ODNR, and it's unfortunately just not funded well. It needs to be funded better. But that means more taxes, more stamps, more money being spent, more.
I would pay, and I don't even have to buy a license, but I do every year to support ODNR.
Yeah.
And
same. I did not have to tag this deer this year with a license that I bought, but I did because it's $25, $29 or whatever.
Yeah.
I got to do my part.
And I do like to hunt a couple other counties that I have permissions, but I would pay 3 times as much if they said, here's what the money's going for. We're going to have 4 people per county or 2 or whatever it comes out to be, or, hey, we're going to take this money and use these thermal drones or thermal cameras on an airplane and break down deer management zones per, I don't know if you can get it to the township level, but like get it to an area where like, okay, let's say you do a township. We're going to sell 80 doe tags in this 36, most Ohio townships are 36 miles by 36 miles.
Correct.
You say, we're going to sell 80 doe tags. And everybody, you have 2 weeks, you go in and you can buy, everybody gets 3.
But once it's filled.
Once it's
They
done,
do that in a lot of places with turkeys and stuff and bears.
I think Pennsylvania does this with at least around like Pittsburgh suburbs.
Yeah.
They do that, I think, with deer. So like once the date's up, like you all had your chance. Okay, now, hey, we still have 20 doe tags. And you can go in and buy. I don't think you can like wipe them out because then somebody would just go and go, I don't want anybody killing the deer. And they buy them all. Mm-hmm. So it's like you can buy like 3 every 2 weeks or something. But that way, for the guy who does want to either donate, like one of my best friends in the whole world who lives in southeastern Ohio, he has some family that's, had some rough times and stuff. I don't know how many deer we've given them over the years.
Yeah.
And I love venison, but I'm like, I don't need it to survive. And like, it makes me feel even better. And like my cousin killed a doe this year. And I'm like, his nickname's Dutch. I'm like, hey, Dutch, that's your deer. It's on my farm, but that's your choice, And he's like a real good kid. He's like 15, 16 years old. He's like, no, I'd like to give it, and he donated. And like, that made him feel good. We had a picture of him shaking hands. Like, to me, like all this stuff like divides hunters. That's the stuff that should be bringing us together. But I do think we have to do something to get more data. Because like this, you can shoot, you saw 30 deer and you can shoot 2 does.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nuts.
Right. Yep.
I mean, now the argument is always like, well, yeah, we give more tags and most people aren't going to take advantage of it. You know,
well, you mentioned your buddy from Maryland that hunts, your cousin.
Yeah.
They give, 10 in the regulations?
I think so.
Yeah. You just peel them off and use them willy-nilly.
And
now, I don't think we need to do that, obviously, but there is, obviously, you can kill a lot more deer.
I think Michigan's the same way, and they'll make the argument, yeah, but the average hunter kills 1.25 deer or whatever it comes out to be. I'm like, yes, that's probably true, but there are, anybody who's hunted or spent any time in the woods knows that there are certain days that are better than others. And there are days I've sat on my place, I'm like, I didn't see a damn deer. That doesn't mean that there's not a deer there. There are other days where I could have probably shot 8 does in a day. Not that I would have shot that many, but I would have liked to shoot 3.
So you bring up something good that doesn't get talked about. And I don't know how with today's technology you'd be able to like break this down, but yeah, every hunter kills 1.25 deer per day, or there's an average of 1.25 per hunter. Think about all the guys that are buying tags and then not filling them, but those tags are bought, or there needs to be deer killed in that area, but you get hamstrung and you're only allowed to shoot 2 or 3. Right. Those guys' tags go unfilled. Why? What system could we have in place if we did a county-wide quota or township-wide quota where you can just keep killing? Because guess what? We need to kill, like you said, this township needs to kill 200 deer. Let's just say a number. This township needs to kill 200 deer because we did a study. And only, come gun season, only 71 have been checked in. That means that there's 129 that can be still killed, but you've already reached your limit. What's to say you shouldn't be able to kill a couple more to fill in that gap?
Yeah.
I don't know how you would regulate that.
But I also think there's an argument, and this is, again, very selfish from a private landowner. But like, why is it that my children will see a reduced timber opportunity in their lifetime? I'll be dead.
Yeah.
But in their lifetime, because deer numbers weren't kept in check and I was not legally able to. And the fact of like, well, just invite more people. Well, the house is only so big. I mean, we got 7 guys, and not everybody's going to be successful. You have, how many years has it poured rain for the whole gun week?
Dude.
And my family, like my uncle's a postman. He doesn't get tons and tons and tons of vacation. He has to work every Saturday. So he can't even really hunt weekends.
Right.
So the only time he gets off is like if he takes a whole week off, which is typically like, well, when's everybody going to go? Well, rut, gun season.
Correct. First week in November, gun season. Right.
So you have limit. And then if it, we've had hurricanes come through or rain the whole. So you have these problems. And I just think that's something else. Like, well, why is potentially future dollars on private lands getting impacted in a negative way? I think that's a huge thing that isn't discussed, but I think it should be, because I can tell you right now, our forests are in bad shape in Ohio because they were harvested heavy in the 80s and 90s. And I think also why we saw peak deer numbers in a lot of places around 2000. You had heavy cutting in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Guys, I have so many buddies' dads growing up that were like, oh, they'd drive for the day to southeastern Ohio and shoot grouse all day long.
Yep. Well, what's a grouse?
And now it's, exactly. But
we got to go to Pennsylvania.
Everyone's like, what is it? Well, why? What's the problem? Is it aliens? No, it's our habitat. It's all, what should be oak hickory forest is all maple beech dominated forest.
Yep.
And 1, it's because too many daggum deer. 2 is because we haven't followed good timber management practices. If you get a letter in the mail that's from the local Amish fella or local logger and says, hey, I'll pay you to cut timber, don't do it without a forester.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I saved a neighbor of mine thousands upon thousands of dollars because he got a letter like that. And he called me and goes, I don't know anything about this.
Right.
And I'm like, that's a joke. He's going to cut 100 acres and a bunch of it's walnut and he's going to give you $15,000. But it happens all the time.
Because people see a monetary value that they're not used to seeing, and they don't know anything about it. They're like, oh my God, I'm going to make $15,000.
You don't know anything. You just look at a bunch of trees. You're like, okay.
Right.
But you high grade the timber. There's a lot more to all of this than just white-tailed deer. I mean, there's a huge trickle impact. And going back to a point earlier I wanted to make is, I think the state of Ohio, if these changes happen in Michigan, which is they are proposing $1, and they are proposing,
that's a big shock for them, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. it's the most. I don't follow it too closely, so I don't want to put too much out there like I'm an expert on it because I'm not. But it is the most traction I've ever seen them have, and I have a lot of buddies
because they're considered the worst run state in the union for deer hunting.
Because
it's been said by so many guys.
Well, and a lot of it's cultural, right?
And then you got a lot of loud voices that'll say like Steve Ranella,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, Skip is another one. He's like Michigan's terrible. I'm from there, and a lot of that's cultural. But to your point of earlier, like, oh, well, my buddies go down and they shoot these basket racks on public ground, but there's a lot of big deer killed on public ground in Ohio.
Yeah,
but you can only kill one buck.
Right. Yep.
And you extrapolate that out. So anyhow, if they go one buck and APRs like the state of Pennsylvania has done.
Yep. It seems like a lot of the guys in PA have learned to love that.
And now look at Pennsylvania saying we're going to allow Sunday hunting.
Yeah. If
I was running Ohio like a business and I was looking at my market competition, I would be like, okay, we got to, our soil and our culture is only going to carry us so far. Because I have family in Pennsylvania. That's where Dad was actually from. And my it's my cousin's husband, they're killing 160s.
Yeah. We know there's good bucks in PA. Even where we go hunt on public land, like there are good deer. It's hard to find them, but there are good deer up there. There's even good deer down in West Virginia where we're hunting. It's just they're few and far between the big ones. But I mean, some of those deer get 6, 7, 8 years old in those hills, and they're good deer.
Yeah,
150-inch deer.
And West Virginia has pretty tough regulations.
Yes.
I think you could shoot like 3 bucks up to like 2 years ago or something like that.
You can shoot 2 still. It was 3. You can now shoot 2 because I can shoot one with my bow and then and you get a firearm rifle buck tag with your license. So if I buy the archery tag, I can shoot one with my bow and then kill another one come firearm season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a whole different.
You got to buy separate tags for does though. They don't make it easy to kill a lot of does in West Virginia.
Yeah, Isaac accidentally bought a tag.
Yeah.
Well, I have another customer, and I won't say exactly where, but he's in the state of West Virginia. And
is he close to us?
Where are you guys at again? You're like more central, right?
We'll talk about it after the podcast.
Yeah. I can't remember.
Yeah, we are central.
You told me.
Yeah.
No, he's I would say more northern.
Okay.
Definitely has more flat topography.
Yeah, we have 0 flat.
But it's not, not straight up and down. He plants a ton of food plots. I mean, the guy manages. He plants a ton of food plots. He runs feeders, but they hammer does. So it's like 400 or 500 acres. I can't remember exactly. I think they shot 30 does a year for like 3 or 4 years in a row. Other things happen. That's not the only thing. But with the food plots, with shooting doe, with doing timber management, with running supplemental feed, I saw some pictures of deer. Now, they didn't harvest any of them, but they were there. They would be flirting with 190, 200 inches.
Well, the bow-only counties to the west, is it the west side?
I don't know.
It's West Virginia, right? The west, like Logan, those areas
I think
West Virginia that are bow-only.
Southwest, I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's been 200-inch bucks killed there.
Absolutely.
Giants.
Again, people go, well, yeah, but poaching probably happens a lot. Right, like that's like the same thing. Like
those guys self-regulate well in those counties. If you are born into the bow-only counties and have land in the bow-only counties, they do a very good job of self-regulating. If you're an outsider, you're hunting.
Well, just like I think guys would in Ohio, if you took baiting away or you regulated drones, right? Like that's the same argument, right? Well, guys are going to cheat. Well, why does it work that there's bow-only counties in probably arguably the most rural part of the eastern half of the United States?
Yeah. It is literally the central Appalachia.
Yeah. And you have
190-inch deer getting killed, 200-inch.
Yeah. And they're somewhat self-regulating.
Because if people hear a gunshot during archery season or during gun season, even when the gun season would be, they self-regulate very well down there. They don't take well to outsiders, but hey, if I had 200-inch bucks in the hills, I wouldn't either.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I think those are all things that are, but I don't know. I mean, I think Ohio has something to think about with these neighboring states.
I think change has started. I think change is on the horizon, or at least the conversation for change is there.
And I don't know what we do. I mean, I don't know. Like, is it APRs? I don't know. I don't know enough, but I just think that if you, it's going to take 5 years. But if Michigan gets that done, 5 to 10 years.
If we find a way to incentivize does, shorten the season, maybe get rid of baiting, I think it would do a lot for Ohio over time.
I agree.
Do I think we can pull back on crossbows? No. Could we get a crossbow only season? Maybe all of the month of November, something like that. Maybe. But that wouldn't be the tree I'd bark up. But I do think if we do a couple, and they've started by doing the whole non-resident increasing the tag prices, probably going to go to a draw, I would assume, because Missouri sounds like it's going to a draw. So there's going to be some legislation there of going to a draw to limit the number of non-residents at a certain time. I don't know. I think we could see some changes that would
Ohio
be very positive.
Observe other states doing it and see how well it's working for them, and then start slowly implementing it for themselves. Because they've started with the increase in tag price. They saw other states do it. It's like, oh, we could do that too, and then they watch it grow, and then same thing for.
But we used to also be like the only near state to the East Coast that was worth its weight.
We were by far the heavy hitter in this triangle area.
Yeah.
Michigan, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia, all these guys around us. Kentucky has forged its own path with a little bit of specific regulations with the velvets and stuff, but we were by far the heavy hitter.
Yeah.
Illinois shut their borders down. It was like, bluff, it was the Grand Haven of hunting for a little while. And then they're basically like, okay, that's enough of that. We're going to make it so only our guys can hunt it. So people weren't traveling to Illinois very often, but Ohio was the one.
Yeah.
The one.
And I just think that, that's something I always look back on. It's like, I still think Ohio deer hunting is really good.
I still think we have the biggest deer in all of the nation. I know people say Iowa and Kansas and some of these deer, but I mean, I think more 200-inch bucks get killed in Ohio than anywhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers.
I mean, we're just spoiled.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I every year I get anxiety about a deer that I found dead or not even in like a super negative way, but you just go, man, like that deer disappeared. Like, oh, maybe he was. And then I always have to pinch myself and go, man, I've been doing it for 20 years. And
There's always
going
another
back
deer.
to the wild game cams. You remember those wild games that took like D batteries? And you always go back and
there's up there. There's a couple of them up there. There's a big giant thing of film on the back.
And you always go the next year. There's every single time.
There's always another
There's
deer.
been, and that goes back to when we had 50 acres to hunt.
Yep.
Up to, obviously as you add more land, like just statistically, you should have more deer, but there's always another one.
Always.
And that's the biggest thing with Ohio. I'm like, whatever you do, don't ever get rid of $1. Don't ever consider $2.
Be terrible.
That would be
terrible.
Huge. Yeah. But I think that's one of the greatest things we do.
Well, we were going to have you talk about your drone study and trail cameras and 5 things to do to a new habitat, but we've hit an hour and 30 minutes. So
Is it really? Holy cow.
We're going to have to bring you back for a part 2.
Dude, I'll do it.
Yeah, we're going to have to.
Anytime.
Because this one's reached the length of what we like to keep them at, and there's a lot more stuff we need to talk about. So we'll just have to do a part 2.
Anytime.
I love the idea of a part 2.
Anytime.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'd love to talk about that drone study. And
next time we'll start with the drone study so we don't get sidetracked.
Yeah.
Give the audience a little bit of what that is so they have an idea.
Yeah, so basically I wanted to understand deer density. So I had taken photographs of TSI, mid-story removal, things like that I had done and observed over a 2-year period. Then with Ohio being a bait state, I did dump a bunch of corn in front of 15, 20 cameras on 400 acres. And I ran that study from 4 to 6 p.m. for 17 nights. And I recorded every night. The average being around 14.5 antlerless deer and maybe 3 to 5 bucks per night. Was the average. I then extrapolated that out and came up with what I thought would be how many deer are on 400 acres. And then, of course, extrapolated that out further, what would be in a square mile, 640 acres. Yep. But that wasn't enough because I'm a nerd. I then brought in one of these thermal drones and had them fly all 400 acres, and I compared the data. And I'll just put it this way. I was way off.
You were low on your trail cameras?
Way.
Yeah.
And I more than doubled the number of deer that I thought were on the property, and I was significantly off.
Yeah, I believe it.
Well, I'll be excited to hear about it next time.
Yeah, it'll be a good topic for sure. It'll be a good topic.
Well, thank you guys.
We'll get you on. Actually, we'll try and schedule. Let's try and schedule one here soon so we can keep it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only other thing I'll say is I do own Vitalize Seed Company. So if anybody's interested in food plots or anything like that, we kind of have a unique take, and maybe I can hit on some of those things next time as well.
To find you on social media, though, it's not Albert Tomechko.
No. I think because I have my kids on social, I keep that kind of private.
Yep.
So just Vitalize Seed is the best way, whether it's on Instagram. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. All the big ones, I think.
We'll share some of those links in the description for you guys. Yeah, it was a great conversation. Like I said, I would love to get into that tonight and dive into more of that and keep going for another couple hours, but I'm getting text messages to start moving more boxes out of my house.
Yeah, no.
I hit our time limit, and
I totally understand. I really appreciate it.
So we'll just do part 2. It'll be awesome.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Maybe at the new house.
Yeah, I'm going to build a podcast studio at the new house. I don't know how long. I don't think that's going to happen before wintertime, but I'll assume we'll be back here.
Sounds good. Yeah.
For sure. We had a great time. I love just talking about what we did, going down those rabbit holes with guys. I could do it every single podcast. I know the audience would probably hate that, but
it was a nice refresher.
Yep.
Being 2 months away from deer season, talk about deer again.
Correct. Deer Shot Podcast, guys, episode 134, I believe.
Yep, 134.
And we're out.
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 Thanks, guys.